Howdy folks, Jamboree here and welcome to the last ever episode of the Church of Tim Curry. I'm afraid that Viva won't be joining this one, it's just me, and I'll be talking about the film Congo. Primatologist Peter Elliott has been using sign language technology to help a gorilla called Amy speak. But after years of raising her domestically, he understands that she maybe want to return to the wild. But no one will fund the trip to Africa. Luckily for Peter, an eccentric Romanian philanthropist called Herkerma Homolka, played by Tim Curry, agrees to provide the money, but it turns out that he's not got funds for the plane's fuel. So Karen Ross, an electronic communications expert and former CIA operative, offers to pay for the fuel on the condition that she can join them too, as she wishes to locate her ex-fiancé Charlie in the Congo. Once everyone arrives in Africa, mercenary Captain Monroe Kelly helps the team cross the border, serving as their guide and protector throughout the jungle. It also turns out that Homolka isn't some wealthy philanthropist with only Amy's happiness in mind, but a conman bent on finding a lost city that holds a diamond mine, which is later revealed to be protected by evil killer gorillas. This film had a pretty negative reception upon release, and while I can't say that it's bottom of the barrel bad, I do think that it's very average. It's a painfully unremarkable adventure film, with most of the runtime being padded out with mundane travel shots and pointless filler. Heck, most of the obstacles at the film's start are solved by Karen providing cash for blackmail or resources. She seemed to have unlimited money, so there was no tension, because Karen could always pay the team out of trouble. The film doesn't recognize the importance of cutting scenes with no purpose, so we get a lot of unnecessary moments like characters waking up to loud gorillas in their mating ritual at night, or Peter screaming about a leech being stuck on him. While scenes of our heroes trekking, hiking and rafting might have pretty African environments for backgrounds, they drag on for ages and are mainly used for dumping character backstory exposition.
So why'd you quit the CIA?
I never worked for the CIA.
Of course you didn't. But if you had worked for the CIA, why would you quit?
Because they're a loveless bunch of sons of
Sure, we get an action sequence here and there, but it's hard to care about these more exciting scenes when I feel sleepy from all the boring parts, especially when each action sequence is short-lived. I couldn't give two fluffs about what was happening most of the time, so why would I subtly be invested by an out-of-nowhere conflict? Oh, and if you wanted to see this film mainly for the killer gorillas, you'll have to wait a long time, as they don't appear until the last act, and when we finally do see them, they don't come off as scary at all, looking more ugly than intimidating. The editing also becomes obnoxiously choppy when these killer gorillas appear too, most likely because the filmmakers wanted to keep things PG-13. It's a crude attempt to censor the violence that dilutes the visceral impact and terror of these monsters, while also making it hard to make out what's even happening half the time. But the aspect of the movie that makes it most insufferable is the character of Peter, who spends the whole adventure whining and moaning. I get that he's supposed to be the nerdy one of the bunch, and that he doesn't have as much experience with adapting to rough terrains. However, that just begs the question, what did he expect? He chose to go on this trip. He should have been prepared. A little research would have helped. His incompetence isn't funny or charmingly naive, it's just irritating, mainly because he has such a neurotic and self-entitled attitude.
Look, I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to call this off.
I beg your pardon?
I know when I'm in over my head, I'm not James Bond.
Don't worry, I'll take care of you.
I don't want you to take care of me.
Fine. I'm taking a safari into the Virunga region of the Congo. If you don't want to go, just go wherever. But you should know this is a damn dangerous place and people die here very easily.
Yes, it's sweet that he has enough compassion for Amy to take her home, and he does have a touching bond with the gorilla, but personality-wise, Peter is difficult to sympathize with. Karen may be more sensible than Peter, but she too can be grating sometimes. I mean, her boss is far from subtle about caring more about the diamonds than Charlie, you can tell right away.
Perfect, you say? A flawless diamond.
He found it. He was right.
With the right laser and diamonds like that, we can dominate the communications industry overnight.
And he doesn't try hard to hide that fact, yet Karen gives him the benefit of the doubt, only to be surprised when it's revealed that yes, he only cared about the diamonds, making her look very naive, extremely naive even. Karen's bitter tension with Peter is aggravating to say the least too. All we're watching are two scientists from different fields being catty towards each other in a pointless fight for intellectual superiority. Their gripe with each other doesn't even lead anywhere. It's just conflict for the sake of conflict, as if the film doesn't know any other way of creating character development.
Why teach an ape to talk?
No practical reason.
Then why'd you do it?
A lonely impulse of delight.
William Butler Yeats.
Very good.
Did it work?
What do you mean?
You're not lonely anymore?
Now, like I said, this movie isn't that bad. I mainly say that because the supporting actors save the film for me. Ernie Hudson is charmingly charismatic as Monroe, bringing a natural confidence to the character that makes him appealingly cool. A great contrast to the whiny Peter.
Hamjambo.
Hatujambo.
Nanim kuenu.
Ni mimi hapa.
Why are they laughing?
They asked who was in charge. I said I was.
What's so funny about that?
I'm black. I should have luggage on my head.
And of course, to no surprise, Tim Curry is a delight too, playing the part with a cartoony Romanian accent that's more funny than authentic.
Herkema Homolka, formerly of Romania, free now of the chains of Ceausescu, traveling the world, doing good.
Unfortunately, the film kind of sidelines him for most of the movie, as it's more interested in our leads, but once we reach the Lost City, Tim is given a lot of meat to chew, and boy does he feast.
Maybe the mines ran dry.
No, no, the diamonds are here.
What I love about Homolka as a character is that he's a borderline villain, yet isn't out to antagonize anyone. He's shady, deceptive, and even maybe racist, but he tends to stay out of conflicts, being quite a coward.
Mr. Homolka? Well, stop eating my sesame cake. Stop eating my sesame cake!
I do love how fiercely passionate he is about the Lost City, even getting annoyed when anyone tries to convince him that it doesn't exist.
Mr. Homolka here was part of a disastrous expedition about, what, 5 years ago?
Please, I would prefer you not to.
They were looking for a city called Zinj. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist.
It does exist.
Fine.
So the biggest criticism against this film is the puppetry for the gorillas, particularly Amy. The thing is, I've seen much worse gorilla costumes, really bad even, and Amy looks superior in comparison. Yes, I can tell that this is an actress in an animatronic suit, I won't deny that. Sure, I never bought that she was a real gorilla. But Misty Roses does her best to add an authentic animalistic movement to Amy, and there was an attempt to make the costume look somewhat realistic. I do think that folks have exaggerated how bad Amy's performance and effects are. They're not perfect, especially compared to today's standards, but considering technical limitations at the time and how bad gorilla makeup could really be back then, I think that Amy is a fine effort. To conclude, Congo was quite the snorefest for me. A film that muddles together mundane padding with sporadic moments of brief action, focusing on two very irritating and boring lead characters while underusing a far more entertaining Tim Curry. Like I said, this is the last ever episode of The Church of Tim Curry. I decided to end this show because while I enjoy talking about Tim Curry movies, particularly with Viva, this show has been my least popular series on the channel, with views and interactions being very low. Sure, some episodes have garnered attention, but the success has not been frequent. It can be demotivating to spend ages on something only for it to get a tumbleweed response. But a big thanks to anyone who did listen to this series, it was greatly appreciated. Don't worry though, I'm not going to stop talking about Tim Curry on my channel, you all know how much I love him. I have many ideas for other Tim Curry videos, I just won't be using this show as a vehicle for my fandom anymore. Cheerio folks!